Welcome to Mangaroos. I'm Alex, and I'm joined today by...
Impressionistic Mark.
Bonjour, je suis Jason.
Whoa, that's fancy.
Yeah,
Fancy language.
Did you just single-handedly bring class into this podcast?
Yeah, well, I had to study French for a long time. I like to find opportunities to use it every once in a while.
I only know the, je suis Mosey or whatever. Or
Fatigué.
Those kids are speaking French.
Oh, yeah.
And today, we're not going to speak... Well, we're going to try to speak some French. Jason's going to help us.
I'll do my best.
We delved into the world of 19th century France in this book, Sayonara. How do you say it?
Sorcier.
So yeah,
let's go with the katakana. I think that's pretty accurate, actually. I think in French,
really?
Sorcier.
Yeah. Okay, so let us know how well our French is. And Sayonara, Sorcier, or au revoir, Sorcier.
Au revoir, Sorcier.
Okay. By Hozumi. I don't think you say Hozumi in French in a different way.
Okay, I'll stop. Except for when it's actually required. I will stop the French
now. So this mangaka, they first had an award-winning book that maybe we should have read also. Well, maybe I'll just pick it up later, called Shiki no Zenjitsu. Mm-hmm. And then after that, they started on this series in Gekkan Flowers. It's a Shogakukan publication. And it's a bit older because we have been doing mostly new type things, but this was in 2012 to 2013. It's about the... well, first of all, we're in France. We're about to experience an art revolution, but it's at the hands of a non-artist, Theodorus van Gogh, who is a mover and shaker of this art scene. And he's the branch head of, I Googled the name in English, but it's, a foreign name that I can't read. So it's like, it was in Japanese, it's Gu-Piru, or Gu-Piru. In English, it's Go-Pill. I don't know. But anyway, auction house, which was apparently a very influential auction house, and an international one at that. Did you guys know about Gu-Pill?
No, I think the further we get into this episode, the further we're going to reveal how little any of us knows about the history of visual art, unless Mark has some surprises up his sleeve. No, that didn't crack my top 5 list of most favorite art auction houses.
No, it's not even in my top 10.
I mean, just in this manga, it's only mentioned in passing about how their uncle, who's also named Vincent van Gogh, he was actually one of the main, what are they called? People who give money to a company
Donors.
When they're starting the company.
Well, yeah,
like a Patreon.
Investors,
I guess? Yeah, there wasn't a lot of variety back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these, both Theo and Vincent entered the firm as employees because of his uncle.
I gotta say, Vincent van Gogh the Younger seems to be about as unemployable as a guy can be.
Yeah, but, I mean, they got hooked up by their uncle, apparently. Yeah.
I'm going to choose to believe that all of these plot points are factual. No,
I looked this up. That, apparently because their uncle had no kids, he decided that his nephew should get in on this business that he was investing in.
So Vincent van Gogh was the beneficiary of what's
nepotism.
that thing called? Yeah, nepotism.
he was Nepo baby or not? You decide.
Vincent van Gogh Nepo baby. Wow, hot takes.
I mean, but just getting in on the floor of an auction house doesn't make you a world famous artist, right?
That's true. He had to work his way up.
Yeah.
He painted outdoors. Have you ever tried painting outdoors?
I can barely do anything outdoors.
It's hard.
I wouldn't even think about it. It wouldn't even occur to me.
I mean, it is. Some days it's nice. Some days it's not so nice. I think there's one scene where he's painting in the snow, right?
Yeah, and that was just audacious. Like, he either wasn't paying attention or it was like that was a hold my beer moment for Vincent van Gogh.
Anyway, I'll get into the actual questions now that we went through my little like Wikipedia research moment. So the French aristocrats. So like in this world that happened, the Academy of Fine Arts.
In this world that happened, aka
this world
the
that
past.
happened, history, the past. There was an academy, and they, were classical French people. Like, they had to approve it before
Classic
it went out
French.
in the world. It's classic. Like, don't they do that with their own language?
Yes, they do.
I'm not quite sure what that means, but yeah, it seems like
Isn't
something.
there like a body, like a national like language preservation?
Yeah,
like,
and I believe
academy?
it was set up by Napoleon, and they have to approve the new words that get added to the dictionary. I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's
Yeah.
cool. I was not aware of that.
What? And I thought you were the French master for this episode.
French Canadian, I should say.
Oh, okay, so I think that
different.
wasn't approved by
No,
the French.
nothing French Canadian is approved.
You were
by
already
France
outside of the empire by the time the 1800s rolled around.
for a reason.
So, are you bummed that this Academy of Fine Arts isn't around to curate everything you're seeing? Or are you happier in a world without them? I don't know who wants to go first on this.
What a way to phrase the question. I mean, do I wish that there was an academy of bored apes to police which NFTs I'm allowed to see at the gallery? It's a hard question to answer, right? Because in this manga, not only are they like the art police, but they also actively and violently suppress anyone who tries to make art.
Very violently.
They literally break a dude's arm for trying to do a painting that they didn't that they didn't commission or whatever. So I don't love their methods. Do I love the idea of curation as a concept? Yes, I do. For example, if you've ever tried to purchase a piece of software on the Nintendo eShop, I could use a French academy to step in there and kind of point me in the right direction. There's a lot more art these days than there was back then, and it's kind of a free-for-all. So some amount of curation is nice, but I'm definitely all for everybody having access to making the art. What about you, Mark? What do you think?
Well, I think it boils down to the difference between iPhone and Android. So the French Academy of Art is a bit like the App Store. Everything that you get from there, it was made by a reputable developer, and it's not going to hurt your phone. With Google Play, it could be anything, right? You could just get an APK for someone. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not. You don't really know. So I think there is a place for curation. But at the same time, I think that this French Academy of Fine Arts, after what probably started off as a really good idea, right? It will get people trained up and we'll get them to draw these great pictures that are really good and fit a certain standard. But after a while, they just started bossing other people around. Once you get a taste of power, it's really hard to let go. And by the time this thing in here, right, which is really about the story of the rise of the Impressionist painters, like all the painters that we know today. I don't know about you guys, but when I was in the cradle, my mom was showing me some Monet, some Manet, some Van Gogh. She was not dipping back into anything before
She wasn't
that.
showing you like religious like paintings or like ancient battles.
No, she wasn't. There was
Oh my God.
there was none of that in the house. It was all exactly what Jason's Zoom background is right now, which you can't see, which is Starry Night. And I think history has proven that the Impressionists had a much bigger impact, at least on where we are today, in art. I think all art is also secular, and maybe something will come back around, and things will change in decades or centuries.
I don't know if that type of art is so secular where we're all gonna be like looking back at like, was it like Roman tragedies or whatever, like ancient like stories.
It could be. All you have to do is uncover a new forgotten city, and then everything comes back around again. I don't know.
Yeah, nobody's done that lately. Let's uncover a new forgotten city. Come on.
But
I wanna
hey,
shake things up.
Yeah, surely. Speaking of forgotten cities, so what this reminded me of was Pitchfork in the 2000s.
Pitchfork, the music review website, the most trusted source in music journalism?
I don't know about it. Tell me about it. What is this?
Pitchfork was like this magazine, also a website that would review. It was a music publication, and they would review new albums. And
they still do. It must be said. I'm still a going concern.
I'm sure that it's still going on to this day, because, I mean, where we would be without them. But in the early 2000s, everyone's just pointed to Pitchfork as like the place to go to find out if an album was good or not. So if you really wanted to know if you had good taste, if it aligned with Pitchfork, then you knew you were in good company. But after a while, it just started to become a little bit, I don't know, kind of an inside joke. Pitchfork loved it. I hated it. All that jazz.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went through this weird period where it kind of was almost like a self-parody. Like, of course, Pitchfork loves this Animal Collective album that sounds like, a bunch of white guys going woo into a reverb machine for an hour. Mm-hmm. You could start to predict exactly what kind of stuff they would love. And now I think they've come out the other end where I still read Pitchfork, and it's still a good source of, like, finding out about music that I wouldn't otherwise find out about, but it still does feel kind of gatekeepy and very much kind of telling you this kind of music is cool for this reason, and this is how you should interpret this re-release of this collection of Sudanese music from the 70s, right? So, like, it serves a great purpose, because it does teach me about music I would not otherwise find out about, but it's also, like, it's like teaching me a lesson about it as well, which is ultimately just one music journalist's point of view. So,
But can you imagine if Pitchfork sent out a gang of greasy thugs to like Spencer Krug's house and send him to break his arms and stop making new groups and putting out new CDs?
I don't know. In 2006, would I be super surprised to find out that happened? I don't know, man. Not saying anything, just saying.
Well, here at Mangaroos, we don't support violence.
No, we do not.
Never break anybody's arm for any reason. That is the official Mangaroos policy.
That is what the story is kind of pointing to, right? Like, the harder you crack down, the more that it's just going to overwhelm the establishment.
Yeah, and French people love revolutions, so they should have seen that coming.
Surely it can't happen again.
Can we dive into this manga really quick?
Sorry.
So I've made a few notes, and the scene that you're talking about, which is page 90 and 91, where Jerome and all of his cronies are like at the French Academy of Art. They have like this sweet ass clubhouse where it's just absolutely beautiful. It's like Greco-Roman paintings everywhere, just sculptures. I looked up this Jerome guy, and he's actually really talented. And he made some really kick-ass sculptures that are really cool.
Like, okay, so the mind-blowing thing is that Jerome actually was made to be super famous because of the gallery that Theodorus works at.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, what? And apparently he married the daughter of the owner of that gallery. Like the guy who like started it. The Goupier.
The Goupier.
He married the heiress of Goupier. Yeah.
Princess Goupier.
Princess Goupier. I'm sorry, Jerome. Your princess is in another castle. Now, Alex, I have to ask you this question. So, what the heck is going on page 91? This guy busts in when they're all at dinner, and he's just like, look, you can't tell us what is and what isn't art while these guys are eating. Who is this young man?
I was trying to figure that out.
Two, why does he just roll up into this dinner at this clubhouse and just like start hurling insults? And then
Wait a minute, aren't these the guys that were invited? Like they had invitations, right? Or am I thinking?
No, that's later on. That's later on.
That's a soiree.
No, that's like one of my favorite when he's like unveiling his new painting.
Yes,
and then Theodorus pays a bunch of guys to go in and say that it's shit and then leave.
Yeah, that one's really great.
That is good.
Yeah, no, you're actually talking about the guy what got his arm broke.
No, that was like holy.
Yeah,
what?
Now that you mention it, I did sort of gloss over.
Like, would you?
You glossed over the gang violence?
Well, I mean, that part sort of leaped out and grabbed me by the lapels. A young man having his arm broken while the other man calmly eats his dinner.
Steak, yeah.
That lingered in my memory. the fact, who is this young man and why is he
I was
here?
wondering if this was, the liberty, taking into liberty, like, when you're doing historical stuff, you have to make part of it fiction because you can't know how they spent their time, right?
Well, without question, this scene is set up to make Jerome to be the big bad for the entire series.
Yeah.
They're making him into the
big bad.
Makima-san. But I think what's deeper here is, in an era without Twitter, how are these people who are angry at the establishment, the powers that be, able to go in and express that anger? Did they just bust into people's houses?
Yeah, they just bust into people's houses. You know the French. That's what they do. I'm just kidding. They take people's heads.
Maybe a little less energy in policing the art world and a little more energy in home security. It would have been in order. I don't know.
So my next question is like not related at all. Was that I just wanted to remark there's a chess match at the beginning of the story. It goes on for a few pages.
There sure is.
Did anyone else think that it was like randomly sensual?
Well played.
I thought it was intentionally sensual. Yeah, kind of everything that Theodorus does is shrouded in this aura of sensuality, right? Like he's very much he walks into the room and he just controls the room, right? And he's drawn in this very like elegant shoujo manga way with these like long fingers all the time, and
piano
his hat
fingers
that he's always doing things with. So yeah,
amazing thing. The most amazing things.
I mean, what else would you have a hat for, right?
Well, if you're not gonna, use it as an accessory, in the best way, no, he's very, and he has this power to just persuade people and like draw people's attention. So, I thought that the chess match was a perfect introduction to the kind of character that he is.
What about you, Mark?
No, totally agree. I mean, I don't know if it was if I felt it was sensual, but I do think it was definitely showing that Theo, well, all these people are playing checkers, he's playing like three-dimensional chess, and it was foreshadowing as to how many steps ahead he was thinking of where art is going and how he was going to crush the academy from the inside. But also, I thought after I read back through it, I thought that the guy that he was playing at the chess, when they revealed that he wasn't really just like some homeless guy in the park, but actually a famous critic, I thought maybe that was Jerome, so I had to go back and read it again, but it was not. It was a different art critic.
A different guy. Well, Jerome's an artist, and this is an art critic, so a little bit different.
I do sort of feel like this is kind of a weird segue, but I felt like a lot of elements of this manga, I really liked it overall, but I felt like a lot of it just sort of kind of snuck up on me out of the shadows. Like, people kind of come and go into the story, and it's not clear, like, who's going to be an important character and who's just there to kind of push the plot along. And it's very, like, mysterious and hard to approach manga. I felt like this manga was, like, trying to become friends with a cat. When I approached it directly, it would kind of like slink away, and then when I was like, fine, I don't even care, then it would kind of like come over and start
licking your hair,
rubbing up against me. Yeah.
It's an interesting way to describe it.
It made me feel like, man, maybe I need to read more shoujo manga, because this is doing stuff that you don't normally encounter in a lot of... Well, but could also be why this manga was voted Kono Manga ga Sugoi #1 in 2014. Like, maybe it's just early.
Like, okay, sorry, this is like going to my last question, actually, about manga outlining historical events. Like, I feel like manga outlining historical events usually ends up kind of doing this, of like, there's a lot of stuff happening because they're trying to like hit all the things that people who are historically savvy would be like, oh yeah, and that. So like it tries to like get it all in there, which sometimes is like overwhelming. But if I were a Japanese, like I always felt really, what is it called? Envious of Japanese kids, because, we have our boring textbooks with our like pictures of Van Gogh paintings. But then after that, they can go like read about like these brothers. Like, that's fun.
You're jealous of Japanese kids because they have access to manga about things?
History manga.
That's actually, you're far from the only person who feels that way. Do you think Hozumi, and not only Hozumi, but since Hozumi created this manga, but just in general, creators who go in for this kind of historical story, right? Do you think they feel like a big pressure to get it all right? Like, do you think they envision Vincent van Gogh enthusiasts reading their manga with like a critical eye? Or are they just trying to tell a good story?
I can answer this one hands down. How many of you ever seen one of the mini portraits of Van Gogh?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I've
then-
seen, yeah.
And then Hozumi's interpretation of Vincent as like this Ikemen version of Jim Morrison.
Fair enough.
I don't think
Touche.
she was trying to get anything historically on the money, because this was way far from the
though,
truth.
like, but like, okay, going back to last week with Kome, like, I saw, ancient, like, drawings of Kome.
Yeah,
he
didn't
did
look
not
like that.
look like that.
Yeah,
He is
yeah,
okay.
very svelte in the manga.
At least they had the peacock feather down.
Yeah.
Actually, as someone who has worked in the otome games space, I kind of love that about it's not a
Yeah.
genre. What do you call it? I guess
no,
it's a
like
genre.
reworking of historical figures.
everyone
you
is
could take the
Ikemen?
historical story of anybody. You could make a Napoleon story as long as you make Napoleon like this very cool-looking, beautiful man with
You can just
luscious
be
eyelashes.
a short hot man.
Is it short hot with
Yeah.
Tom Cruise? I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really admire that because, I think part of your question, Alex, is like, are you interested in history being told to you in this format? And for me, it's absolutely yes, because would you have gotten my interest if you said, hey, here's this biopic about Van Gogh and it's extremely accurate and the guy they cast looks exactly like Van Gogh? I'd be like, snore, I'm already bored just hearing about this description. But if you can give me a manga where everyone is beautiful and, the facts are a little bit fast and loose, but the basic story is there, sign me up. I would learn about anything in history if it was delivered to me in this way, happily. So, that's me. What's
What
up?
are your thoughts about, as a genre, historical manga?
Oh no, all for it,
Yeah.
100%. I have read an inordinate amount of historical manga, like the ones where you have like all the Oda Nobunaga or
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
or Toyotomi Hideyoshi, like those. I've read
Yep,
all
yep.
those, and I think there is a common thread, and one is that everyone is turned into an ikemen. But the other one is that there's a lot of assumed knowledge, and they jump around from place to place. You kind of like all these people come out of nowhere, like all these big historical figures. And I found that to happen in this as well, in Sayonara Sorcier. Like, you kind of had to know who all these people, and I did not, so I had to go and look them up afterwards. But it did open me up to a new world. So since then, I've been totally crushing on like impressionistic painters and just devouring their Wikipedia articles for the past couple of days. And I
Yeah,
would not
no.
have done that without this.
And
I
in
feel-
fact, I think that's one of the things I often, like when I talk to people who aren't interested in manga, and they ask me, why do you like it, right? This is kind of one of the big selling points, is because there's kind of a manga about everything, like no matter what you're interested in. So it doesn't even only have to be historical, but just like, what is your super niche interest that you're excited about? And it almost sounds like a joke. Like, yeah, of course there's a manga where Vincent van Gogh and his brother are these two hot boys, but it exists.
Tearing up
and it's
Paris in
great.
1888.
Tearing up Paris.
So it's just like there really is a story about everything, and I love that. So yeah, I think it's fantastic.
I wanted to ask also this question. So there's one of my favorite scenes in this manga is the baker. There's a baker who really wanted to become a painter, and he
And his
makes
wife's like, all you're good at is making
bread. And then he makes
If I had
bread.
a penny for every time they told me that.
But then he makes bread as art.
The painting.
As a painting. What's something in your life that you want to like show people? Maybe your bread that you would want to show in an artistic format. Mark.
Oh gosh, that's such a good question, and I thought about it a lot, but I don't think there's any like physical object that I have that I would want to paint and tell people about. Although I have had a few contraptions in my day that I was really excited about, but I I think one thing that has really kept my life interesting over these decades is that I have the ability to absolutely like fall in love with an artist or an author or some historical figure and just like, really do a deep dive into everything that they've done, everything that they've produced. And I mean, it's a little bit like an art crush or something like that. And that just brings me weeks and weeks of joy. It's so much fun and exciting, and I get a lot out of that. And I was thinking like who would I really want people to find out about? Like if I could take some of these people that I've fallen in love with in the past and get other people excited about them, I think that would be pretty cool. But it's also hard to just choose one.
Also, it may be hard to paint them, you know?
You just can't really... They have to be like a portrait of
capture their likeness, you know what I mean?
Jason, what about you?
It's an interesting question, right? Because I think the bread guy... I don't think he thought real hard about like what am I going to paint. We're really deep diving into a character's psyche who appears in the manga for like 3 panels. But
I don't know. He appears a bit more than that.
He comes back.
Yeah, he does come back.
I'm being disingenuous.
But it's also the baker from Kiki's Delivery Service, by the way.
Clearly, yes.
Oh, really? But I thought that was a woman.
Oh, Sono-san. Yeah, no, her husband makes the bread. She just sells it.
Okay.
He's very gruff though. But yeah, it's like. He fancies himself as like, oh, I also have this skill as a painter, and this is my true calling. And I don't think he thought real hard about what will I paint. I think it was like he got into a flow state and just expressed himself the best way he knows how, which is a loaf of bread, right? So if that was me, I would somehow have to find a way to paint a long-winded, half-successful analogy, which I don't know how you would paint that, because... That is the thing that I do the most, that I'm most attracted to. Otherwise, I think I would just paint, like if I wanted to get the same reaction that guy got, which was like the people, and I mean the people with a capital P, right? Like the masses, they saw his painted loaf of bread and it captured their hearts, right? And if I wanted to do that, I think I would just paint like an original Game Boy. Because people would be like, oh, I remember.
But the gray
times
one?
Were simpler. Of course, the pea soup original joint.
The greenish screen.
I think that goddarn thing did more to shape the course of my life than any other single object, for better and for worse. But also, you know, people love nostalgia stuff. So, you know, I think it would spark a revolution. But it's really hard to imagine... What would the equivalent be to the painted loaf of bread nowadays? You know, what would people see on the street and get real up in arms about it? You know, I can't even imagine what that would be anymore.
I don't know, like if you turned yourself into like a VTuber on the street, I don't know, and started like reciting AI lyrics. I don't know.
That actually does sound like a lot of fun.
Well, I hope to see you soon in the streets of, what is it, like Akihabara, doing that.
Don't rule it out. I might start here in Yokohama and go from there.
Okay, well, send, you can upload the video to our new YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, that exists by the time people are hearing this. I think.
If the Academy doesn't shut it down.
Yeah.
Bunch of jerks.
Bunch of fat cats in their ivory towers.
I also wanted to ask you this question of, since we're talking about evil fat cats,
Garfield?
John at it again.
But it is a John. It's a John Leon Jerome. How do you say
Jerome.
his name in French?
Well, if it's John, I guess it must be Jean.
Like Jean Leon.
Jean-Léon Jérôme.
Yeah, that guy.
It'd be like that.
So he's against all of the new forms of art.
Sure is.
Have you ever challenged an old guard on something, and like a new way of doing things or a new way of looking at the world? Jason?
So yeah, never in like ways that are as meaningful, as impactful as I would have liked them to be. But so when I was in high school, I was part of the first cohort. So my year, was the first year that Ontario, the province of Ontario in Canada, they implemented this new rule where in order to graduate from high school, you had to do like X number of hours of community service. And I kept forgetting / putting it off / I didn't really know what I was supposed to do. When I was going to school, I also worked a part-time job. And so I was just like, man, I don't know. What am I going to... I don't have time for this. What is this? And then it caught up to me, right? So it was really like I was in my last year of high school and I was in danger of not graduating because I didn't do community service. And I was like,
how many hours?
I don't remember, like 40? I can't remember.
Man.
But that would take a whole week.
So I somehow convinced my principal that the online writing I had been doing was community service. Because I was getting published. Yeah, I was getting published in a couple of, which I'm definitely not going to tell you what they were, but I was writing for a couple of websites and I was like, yeah, no, I'm doing this for free. It is technically a community service because someone might be benefiting from it somewhere. And at that point in time, I guess, writing online wasn't as super common as it is now.
It was still a nascent industry, yeah.
Yeah, my principal was like, yes, I guess so.
Online writing? That sounds
in retrospect, I wish I had done actual community service. But the good news is, I think that experience kind of shaped my university experience, because once I went to university, I actually did like a ton of public interest research group, like volunteer stuff. So I think the intended effect kicked in for me.
You were compensating eventually.
For something. But yeah. And then the other one is recently at a work meeting, they were like, please, even though we're all here in person in the same room, everyone please log on to Zoom so that we can all share this PowerPoint and look at it at the same time.
What?
And I was like, what if we just don't do that part since we're all here in the same room? And everyone was like, yes, I'm with him. And I felt like I sparked a
revolution. That was a tiny French revolution.
Yeah, so I felt real good about that.
People were deleting PowerPoint off the computer. Left and right.
Yeah, I
did
guess
you not have like a
PowerPoint.
Screen to share, to like look at together?
It was so dumb because we were all sitting there at the same table. And everyone was supposed to like flip their laptop up and look at this PowerPoint while we're all talking to each other.
Very
and
important
I was like,
PowerPoint.
Does anyone else think this is super stupid? And everyone was like, actually, yes, thank you for saying something. So I felt like that was the closest I ever got to feeling like a revolution.
Oh, that's important to point out the dumb stuff.
Right?
I mean, that's what Theo was doing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you,
What about
Mark?
you, Mark? Have you ever spoken truth to power?
No, never. But one thing that I did that was a little bit challenging the status quo. We're going back to high school. I went to a private school in high school, and you had to wear collared shirts every day.
Oh my.
Which is why I'm still wearing collared shirts right now. Once it gets into you, it never gets out of you.
That's true. I've never seen you not in a collared shirt.
Yeah, because I can't. Like, seriously, it's
even
burned into my
your
psyche.
pajamas.
Even right now,
wow.
and
Mark,
they have
you
a collar.
can't see this, but Mark is currently wearing a nightcap and a full set of button-up silk pajamas.
Having just put my children down to bed, yes, with a collar. No, but I found this is around the time that I was really getting into shopping at Goodwill, something that I've never gotten out of. And has probably limited my fashion choices to this day. But I found this amazing genre of shirts that was just like gas station shirts with collars and people's names on, like Earl and Bud.
Oh, yeah. I feel like Japanese people love those, though.
They do. And this was like 16, 17-year-old me just was absolutely in love. And I was snapping up these shirts left and right. I was like, this is perfect. It's got a collar on. It's awesome. It's, the tighter the shirt, the better it is. It's a great fit. And then I was wearing them to school. And then one day my principal pulled me to the side and he was like, Mark, does that shirt look neat? And I was like, yes, sir. It sure does. He let me know his opinion about the shirts that I was wearing. But he didn't tell me not to wear them because they definitely fulfilled the requirements, but in a way that was just, I don't know. I don't think to say it was subversive.
Skirting the line.
It was skirting the line, yeah. And I don't know. It felt good. I felt like they really lightened up on the dress code restrictions after that.
You know what? I think that's close to the guy painting the loaf of bread, though, because you were expressing what's truly in your heart.
Yeah, and in my heart, it was a gas station shirt with a really cool name on it.
What was the coolest name you found?
Earl
Jim.
was the best.
Earl. Okay, that's classic.
That was good, but
Okay.
also one time I got another gas station jacket from a friend, and I traded a guitar for it. And then I was like, "Oh, you can hold my guitar for a little bit, and I'll borrow that gas station jacket." And this was in the same period when I was really into gas station clothes, and it was like a shell jacket. And then I came back, like from hanging out with some friends, and then I was like, "Mom, where's that gas station jacket?" And she's like, "I gave it to Goodwill because it looked like, you know, a hunk of junk," is probably what she would have said.
no.
I was like, I'll never
That's
get
the
that
whole
guitar.
point, Mom.
No, I'll never get that guitar back because I just traded it for a guitar, and I didn't. That was the end of it.
Oh man.
And then to spite your mother, you went and got a job at an actual gas station.
Just so I could
Just
get a
for the
shell
great
jacket.
clothing.
Just for the
You
love
were
of
like,
it.
you don't even have to pay me in money. Just give me clothes.
Give me that, and I showed up for one day, and that was the end of my employment.
Did you ever complete the ensemble and wear a gas station pants with the big cargo pockets on the
Yeah,
side?
if Dickies count as gas station pants, I guess I did.
Oh, heck yeah.
Put a little rag in that back pocket. Oh yeah. Driving my Blazer.
Ah, good old days.
Well, I never, I never worked at a gas station or
Well, it's not too
had
late.
the pleasure. Yeah,
I think it might actually be. I don't
It
see
might
too many
literally be
full-service gas stations these days. Alex, as the one of us that has actual visual artistic skills, what would be your loaf of bread if you wanted to, you know, turn the world upside down?
I don't know about turning the world upside down. Like, I mean, I like, rather than doing like pictures, I normally like doing comics more because then I can say something. Whereas, like, I actually have a lot of problems in saying something in one illustration, and I think it's really amazing when people are able to like have a message also in their art.
It's true.
So I mean, I used to do a lot of like 4-panel comics, just kind of about like things in my life that I felt were strange or funny or like just, I mean, then living in Japan for so long, you're also like, am I the only one who's thinking this is insane? You know? So
Well-
I would make a lot of like 4-panel comics about like, am I the only one who doesn't like think this is insane or like this situation is insane, that kind of thing.
That makes me think that Jerry Seinfeld was the Yonkoma comics artist of stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
What's the deal with this thing?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like, I like that kind of thing. I like what's the deal with this thing? But yeah, just
Have you seen these toilets where you have to squat?
yeah, no. Like, so I did one of, I don't know, you guys are not well acquainted with Japanese women's toilets, but they're back in the
That is
old
true.
days when we had
I didn't
the
realize they were different.
squat toilets. Like nowadays, like all the squat toilets are pretty much gone from
They've been replaced by
Tokyo.
impressionistic toilets. Yes.
Yeah, they've been impressionistic toilets.
Theo and his
Yeah.
band of rabble-rousers have won.
But like there used to be a time where there were like half squat toilets in like a lot of stations.
Oh, really? Yeah, no, okay, yeah. That
was
still happens
insane.
sometimes.
No,
At least in
like I haven't
men's
seen
zone.
it recently, but
Thank
it
goodness.
used to happen a lot.
I bet they
And-
tore him out for the Olympics. That never happened.
Yeah, definitely
yeah.
they got
We
rid of them
mustn't
all
speak
by
of
then.
those.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of things improved for the Olympics, and then nothing actually was like used for them, but a lot of things improved. But like I just drew like one of my frustrations in one panel, which was like a long line of women waiting for the one Western style
Yeah,
toilet while all the like the Japanese squatting toilets are all free.
That's pretty good.
Just because like I thought
I was
really
just going out on a limb with the squatting toilet thing, but I love that you actually had.
So maybe that
comic
was my
based
bread.
See, Fred, you would draw a toilet.
Okay.
I'd frame that.
Yeah, Toto. This one's for you.
Anyway, so yeah, that's my bread. And yeah, here's my. Sorry, I'm going like all over the place with these questions. I didn't know
That's
what would
okay.
be a good
No,
flow.
it's your show.
But Theodorus brings avant-garde. How do you say avant-garde in French?
Well, pretty much like that.
Okay.
Avant-garde.
Okay, but he said it cooler. Art to the people with his team of artists. Did you guys know Toulouse-Lautrec?
Yeah, no,
Yes, but I always thought that he was like an explorer. I knew the name.
Wait, what?
because it sounds like Star Trek. Is that what you?
I don't know why I thought that. but
Toulouse
I-
Star Trek.
Yeah, and then I know him from that one Beastie Boys lyric where they
I
mention
know.
him.
Yeah. That's where I got it.
I'm up to my neck
I-
like Toulouse-Lautrec. So I was like, well, what's he up to? I think I just based my opinion on him.
Because he was like actually like someone I knew. Like I didn't know Jerome because
No, I don't know Jerome.
No,
the
I still
modern
don't know.
people don't really know him. But Toulouse-Lautrec, like he's the poster guy.
He is the poster guy. Yeah, if you go, there was a time in my early 20s where anytime I would go over to a house of girls, they would have one of his
House of
posters
Girls.
in a room.
House of Girls.
A house of girls.
So wait, like Toulouse because he often went to brothels, which are also houses.
Yeah, what do you
This is-
mean when you say a House of Girls?
I just mean that you know how like when you are just getting out of university, like, people
Yeah.
don't live alone; they live in a collection of
yeah,
like
yeah.
three or four people.
Roommates,
I
they're
see.
usually
Roommates.
called.
Yes.
I see.
So a house of female roommates, they
A terraced house, if you will.
adorned their walls with Toulouse-Lautrec.
They did.
And
But
then-
Well, I gotta say, I don't think that trend made it up to Canada.
No?
At least not the Canada where I live.
You guys don't have houses big enough.
I mean, like in the U.S., there were a lot of like Toulouse-Lautrec posters for sale in like Target. I feel.
Just everywhere. Oh
What
gosh.
would be like this? What image springs to mind when you think of Toulouse-Lautrec?
It's
posters?
Moulin Rouge. It's like
Yeah.
there's
There's
anything to
kinda
do with
like
that.
girls and like the cat. I think that cat poster too is a
The cat
Toulouse-Lautrec.
poster was big. Yep.
cat poster.
The black cat.
La
with the
Parisienne.
with the writing on the bottom, and
Yeah,
it's like an
it's like-
Yeah,
absent
this-
Yeah,
ad. That's Toulouse-Lautrec.
yeah. He's like super famous in the modern world, especially of home
What?
decor now.
Yeah, no, look him up. He's pretty much done all
I'm trying
those
to look it
paintings.
up right now, and I'm.
I mean, it's just funny because I didn't know really
yeah,
about
no, I
his
totally-
background
oh, okay.
about
You've
being
seen
like
this guy. You've seen this guy.
like a mover and shaker when his art is now been reduced to like very
To Target? To Target?
Target, yeah. So I just
Well,
felt
that's
bad for him.
exactly what the fucking French Academy of Fine Arts was trying to protect against, and you let the people have it, and now they've got it.
That's
The irony.
that's what drawing prostitutes gets you, I guess.
A House of Ladies.
A House of Ladies
Ladies.
and a wonderful musical starring our favorite Ewan
I hope
McGregor.
that the Toulouse-Lautrec family gets a little bit of that Target money.
Is his estate? Sure they do.
Lautrec estate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
See, we're learning stuff here on Mangaroos.
No,
This is an
it-
education.
It's just,
Yeah,
I knew
history.
nothing about this until you brought this manga to our doors. So if you're ever, I mean, if you're just feeling dry and uninspired,
Yeah.
maybe this is the one for you.
but apparently this manga only exists in like French. Like Japanese
Oh,
and
like it got a
French.
French translation?
Yeah. Because
Oh,
I guess
that
the
makes
French
sense.
were like, oh, cool, manga about us.
Le Japonisme.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Japanese. Yeah, no, I would really like to. So I've got a couple of questions about some scenes in this manga. I would really like to know because what Hozumi does is she or he takes a stab at recreating several of these really famous pieces of art, and I think for the most part, all the artists except for Van Gogh are like clip art or they're
Yeah.
just copy paste of the actual pieces. But then for the Van Gogh pieces, like she really she gives it a shot. And one, I didn't think it looked anything like Van Gogh, but I'd like to know what you guys thought. Like maybe I was like, wait, I think Van Gogh's a little bit better. It didn't make me feel anything. Like there's that
Yeah.
one shot. Oh gosh, what is it? Page.
Probably the end or something, right? Or
No, there was something, but
Yeah.
the first one that really got to me, it was page 78, and it's when Vincent is painting his little brother in the field, you know, after he like scrapes his own back. I was like, what a shitty drawing.
Well, to be fair, that one was done by like a 9-year-old.
Yeah, it's a 9-year-old. Okay.
Is this how you react when your children
Yeah, that's what I was
make
gonna
art for
say. Is
you?
this what you react when your child like takes a crayon and then starts like scratching in like you, and then you
That
look
doesn't
like
even
this,
look
and you're
like a drain.
"Hey."
Do a second draft. I want to see some revisions.
Get this! This will never pass the academy.
Yeah. Do you want Jerome to break your arm?
Maybe I'm being too harsh on 9-year-old Vincent. I guess I didn't really take that into account.
When I was 6
do
years
sort of wonder,
old,
though-
I drew Kermit the Frog in crayon, and my mother cried because it was
It was so good.
She said it was so good that it moved her to tears. So that's what I imagined.
Is that when your mom's tried to take all your art and sell it to people?
Yeah, she's like.
I was
"This is
hoping you would say
Kermit."
she cried because it was so crappy. And my mom is the world's biggest Kermit the Frog fan, and I offended her so deeply.
How could you have come out of my body?
I think maybe Hozumi drew this manga simply because they wanted to prove to the world that they could do Van Gogh better than Van Gogh can do Van Gogh.
Oh,
You know what I
man.
mean?
Yeah, well, they definitely did it. Like there's a lot in here that.
It's interesting, right? Because you can tell, even if it was devoid of the context of this manga, you could look at Hozumi's Van Gogh drawings and say, like, oh, that's someone attempting Van Gogh style.
Definitely, like
But,
they're
like-
channeling something.
Definitely not very good.
Yeah, they should probably just stick to drawing like Ikemen.
Yeah, because the rest of the manga looks beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
But,
it's really hard to draw an oil painting in ink.
It makes you wonder. You're working in a visual medium manga about one of the most beloved painters of all time, and the worst parts of your manga are the paintings.
The
of
recreation of the paintings.
That. So it's a little bit kind of.
What?
I mean, it's a bit sad, but yeah.
What do you think it is? Like all these other famous paintings in here are like clearly reproductions of the work. Do you think that the Van Gogh estate just has this shit on lockdown?
No,
like they
I don't
couldn't
Van
think
Gogh
get
so.
Estate famously litigious. Yeah, I'm
really?
surprised this manga was even allowed to be published.
Oh, really?
No, I have no idea. I think it really is. Hozumi just wanted to. Is probably like a big fan of Van Gogh and wanted to have an excuse to do some Van Gogh style drawings. To be honest, that's what I would
I mean,
say.
I liked it when it was like when he drew the dead guy.
that one-
Smiling.
Yeah, that was good.
I like
But
that
that's
one.
that's also like that fits in the Ikemen category,
Yeah,
which
okay.
Hozumi is clearly established that they are very, very capable.
Okay, yeah.
But then also, if you look, the painting at the very end, in the last chapter, when he paints in the snow and it's that forest
Yeah.
with the lovers in, that one is clearly a clip art as well. That one is a copy paste.
I mean, the
That's a copy
two-page
paste.
spread is her or him, and then after that spread is the painting.
Yep.
just
that
put
one
in
is
there.
legit.
And they don't actually even look like each other.
We're being very nitpicky.
Well, I think
We're
that's
being like the Academy right now.
Uh-oh.
This is it. But hey, while we're being nitpicky, can you go to the 2-page spread? Which, by the way, in manga, what I have learned from hanging out with you two is that every time there's a 2-page spread, this is really important. Like that's manga
it's
shorthand
usually
for it.
important.
The money shot. If you go back 1, 2, 3 pages to this page where young Vincent is lifting this fragile 80-year-old grandmother into the snow. Can you just look at those arms and tell me if the angle of his elbows has enough force and torque to off the wall? Or is he just levitating? Is this like an
You don't
alien?
know how much Vincent van Gogh can lift. This woman might be like a piece of paper to him.
Yeah, you know what? It didn't occur to me at the time, but I'm wondering now. Like that wall she was sitting on.
I
was
know,
real
it was
high.
really
It's
high.
very
like,
high, yeah.
So-
I
Did she
feared for
just
this
leap
Baba
off?
But
Babushka's
you know, the
life.
French countryside, they got a lot of like stone walls, right?
Yeah, just walls, little wall sections.
But like she's way over here in the panel before, and then like whoa.
Hey, you know what? I don't know. Just having had drawn, I just drew a manga, and like put my pedal to the metal in the last 48 hours, and just from that, I was like, you know what? Like like a certain amount of continuity error is like totally fine with me, because
That's
like
absolutely fine.
on one page somebody's like jacket would look slightly different, and I'm like, you know what? There's no time to fix that. It's just gonna be.
Totally, I agree. I think the fact that any manga gets finished and delivered into my hands is a small miracle. So I'm willing to overlook the floating grandma in the snow. In fact, it makes me love her more because I like to imagine that she did sort of just float down like a piece of paper. Yeah. And he was there to catch her. So it was a beautiful.
See, that's real community service. That's what you could have had.
No, but that's the greatest part of the Vincent, of Hozumi's Vincent. He's there to catch us. He's there to catch us all.
He is.
Yeah.
He is. When we're most vulnerable.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask at the end of the question that I went off on a Toulouse rant, Tolouse-Lautrec rant. But anyway, which of the ways of them spreading their new forms of art made the biggest impression on you?
Oh, I'll go first for this one. So it was by far when Theo, okay, so they didn't start off as like Theo's gang. He had to win them over, right? At first they hated him because he was part of the establishment, whatnot. But he went drinking with them a couple times, and then they're like, well, Anri was like, okay, we can roll with this guy. But then he's like, hey, I know the Academy isn't going to let you have your own art show, so we're going to put on an indie show, and it's going to be great. And I've got someone l'indépendant, and they tried to put on the Panda show, but then when it came time to do it, the art gallery I was backing in backed out. It's like, I can't do it. The Academy's not going to let me. They'll never let me work in this town again. And then everyone else was saying the same thing. But Theo was like already 3 steps ahead of him, and he had created prints of all the art that was done, and they just took it and they just threw it out like a flash mob into the city, and people were looking at these prints and were saying, these are amazing, I love this art, let's down with whatever art there was before. Now we're going to do impressionistic paintings all the time. This is great. That was my favorite. Jason, what about you? Did anything move your heart?
I'll tell you my answer. It's actually not connected to Theodorus at all. But my favorite example of that was when Vincent van Gogh painted the guy. So the guy is attending his brother's funeral, and then in very, very beautiful manga fashion, as he gets up to leave, a photograph of his brother just like floats out of his pocket.
Why not?
As you do.
And Vincent van Gogh just happens to be there to scoop it up, but then he paints the guy's brother, and the guy sees it, and he just bursts into tears. And I was like, oh, see, this is why we read manga. This is gorgeous. I loved it. But that had nothing to do with Theodorus, right? So obviously the best Theodorus ploy was inviting those, rough and tumble dudes to the high society party. And they show up and they're like, where are the hors d'oeuvres at? Give me some food. And then, they meet with a bunch of snobby elites, and they're like, man, this party sucks, we're leaving. And I was just like, everything about this rules, and Theodorus did it just to be an agent of chaos.
Yeah.
And,
I love how they go, look at Jerome's new painting that they're all excited about, and then they're this guy, seems like a jerk.
Exactly. That was great. Yeah. That was definitely the funniest part. For me.
I've had people like that looking down on me all my life. I'd rather just buy a can of cheap beer than buy this thing.
Yeah. Exactly. That's relatable, man. You know?
I mean, I looked up that painting, and actually the guy isn't really looking down at you. He's looking at a Bible. But it does look like a not fun painting.
No, it's in the manga, it looks like, the word I would use for it is intense.
Yeah, it's intense.
It's real. It's a lot.
It was kind of like Vampires D, like the Dracula. a little bit like that. Alex, I wanted to ask you, and I know we don't have a specific corner for this, but I had a few questions. How did you stumble across this manga? How did you find it? This is so outside of my radar. I had no idea it even existed.
I used to just hang around bookstores and look at things, and if something looked interesting, I would buy it. But then that's what started a dangerous habit of just buying too much and not getting through it.
You could be an art dealer.
Yeah. So
no, Alex, this is why I still have boxes of books at my parents' house.
Yeah.
They're like, do you still want us to hang on to these? And I'm like, I swear I will pick them up one day.
Yeah.
Just hang on to them for another decade, please. Yeah.
But I mean,
this manga was, it was a Kono Manga ga Sugoi #1.
It was on the list.
Yeah.
And they turned it into a musical, which did you guys watch it?
No, I saw the
didn't
poster
see
for it though.
But actually, I bought this before it was Kono manga ga sugoi de.
Hey,
Because
Good for you.
I was such an early adapter that it's actually the obi on this is
You were
talking
one of-
about
Oh my God, that's awesome.
is talking about the manga that this person that Hozumi wrote before this manga,
Wow.
saying that one was critically acclaimed. So by the author of the critically acclaimed other manga. So I guess that was enough for me to like.
You're an original
get interested.
ghoster. Wow.
I don't know. I love when that happens. That happened to me literally just the other day because I love this thing that Shonen Jump put out called Rudy Dragon, and it only has one volume because they published the first volume and then the creator got sick and they were like, whatever, just take as much time as you need. And I loved it, and I've been telling everybody about it, and then it was named the number one like bookseller's choice number one manga of the year, and I was like, yeah, validation.
Yeah, like I think that people are like, well, I mean, I just came back from Comedia, which is like all original event where people are just drawing what they want to draw because there's no editor to tell them what to do with their lives, so they just do whatever they want. And there's like a group of very dedicated people that always come to these events. And like they have like a list of like authors they want to support, and like they go around handing like little treats and like say like thank you, like I love your work, that kind of thing. It's really crazy. Like there's like indie comic fan culture really in Japan.
I love that.
So.
And I'm so bummed, Alex. I want to say this on the podcast. I was really hoping to be there today, and I was busy all day with stuff, with family stuff. So, yeah, I hope it went well. I hope it was fun. I'm definitely going to try to be there next year, regardless, because it sounds like a really cool event.
Yeah, it is a really cool event. If anyone listening ever happens to be in Japan when there's a Comitia happening.
Is it always in February?
No, so the next one is, they're usually around holidays. This one's kind of an off one because February is not
Valentine's
really
Day
a
is over.
holiday. Yeah.
The February holiday, the entire
Yeah.
the 28-day holiday.
But like
That's
the
my
next
favorite
one
month.
is Golden Week.
Oh, so
and
there's like a
then-
few every year.
Yeah.
Right,
And there's
right,
even
okay.
a Kansai one. The Kansai
Oh,
one's
wow.
smaller.
But I bet it's like edgy and has weird.
Yeah, it's probably
comedic-
more edgy.
Yeah. Cool.
So I don't know. Do you want to give this a random rating, or however a rating scale goes,
yeah.
Mark?
Yeah, no, I give it 9 Ikemens, just because there were literally 9 Ikemens in here. One that we didn't talk about, Mark's the lovable butler, who is like constantly pulling on the sleeve of his master to come and straighten up and fly right, but he just doesn't get it. No, I think I would recommend this to anyone who has even a passing interest in art. Because it opens you up to a fascinating world that I don't think gets enough attention. Because this group of French painters in the 80s and 90s, of the 1880s and 90s, really did turn the world on its ear, like the world of art. So I think that deserves more credit, and the story isn't getting told enough. But also, I think anyone who likes Ikemen manga, like this is where it's at. Jason, what about you?
Yeah, I would say Vincent van Gogh to your nearest thrift bookstore and get yourself a copy of this one because it's beautiful. I loved it. It's subject matter, like I said, that I totally don't really care about, and I still don't feel like... You know what? Earlier I made the cat analogy. I think actually this manga is a lot like impressionist artwork or any kind of painting because I've been to many art galleries, and every time I go to an art gallery, I stand there looking at the art and thinking, yes, of course, I'm feeling emotions right now. I
You
don't
say
know what
that
they are.
as you're standing in front of the
this is
starry night.
I'm like, oh, this is doing something to me.
It's
that I
like
don't
Cameron
quite
on
know.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Like you're just like staring at the painting.
Yeah, and like this manga kind of made me feel the same way. I'm reading it and I enjoyed it a lot more than I enjoy going to art galleries. But at the same time, I was like, I don't really know how I'm feeling emotionally in response to this.
Did
but
you like
it's good.
Theodorus's like quote at the end where he's like,
I wanted to become a painter.
Yeah, no, yeah, I wanted to become a painter, but then before that, he says, like, when your heart gets shaken and you can't control yourself, and when you meet that piece of art, do you know what that's called? Love. Like, he said at the end.
Koido.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, I guess that was Kirby's Dream Land on the Game Boy.
Your heart was like
Renowned piece of
shaken
art.
to its core.
Now, yeah, that one changed me forever.
Maybe that
No,
was a Kirby like swallowing your heart.
And he never spit it back out?
You didn't have to.
I thought this was a really nice manga. I love the artwork. I already have volume 2. I'm excited to read it. I'm kind of bummed that it's only a 2-part series.
Yeah.
Because I know it's going to be over so soon. But yeah, very excited to see how it winds up.
Volume 2 got dark real quick.
Did you read it already?
Yeah, I bought them both. It's
Well,
impossible to get Volume 1 and then not want to read Volume 2.
I think that's true. There is a page at the very, very end of Volume 1 with Theodorus holding a pistol to his hat.
Yep, that happens.
Yeah.
It's very pointedly not pointing at his head.
Yep.
It's slightly above his head, pointing at his hat.
He
So
knows
very
what he's
excited
doing.
to find it. Yeah, I want to see what's going on with that. Cool.
I don't know. I guess should I say what the next week is? Because
Yeah.
Alex, absolutely.
okay, so at this comic event, I went with a friend, Minami, and she's actually recently debuted in Lala Isekai Tensei. I think that's the magazine name. Anyway, she will be joining us next time, and we will be talking about Oku.
Very exciting.
Another shoujo, but a shoujo that's not very shoujo, not as you would think.
We should also mention it's also currently like the morning drama TV
Yeah,
show. So
yeah.
it's kind of
It's on fire right now. It's a thing.
It's really
Yeah,
hard
it's
to
a thing.
find. Yeah, it's really popular right now. So super excited to read that. It looks gorgeous, and even more excited to have Minami on the show, our first guest host. It's going to be a lot of fun. I should also mention, if you want to get in touch with us, please do. We would love to hear from you. You can email us at mangaroospodcast@gmail.com. Tell us what you think of the manga we've read so far. Tell us what manga you're excited to hear us read about. Wait,
Or you
what?
want to.
Imagine if,
Yeah,
Yes,
no, do that. Yeah. Give us suggestions, things that we should
we're
get
always open
into.
to suggestions. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you. So send us an email.
Okay, and that was it. Time for us to say goodbye.
I'm gonna go curl up with one of my favorite impressionistic authors.
Don't cut your ear off.
Bye. Don't.
Bye, everybody.
It's so dangerous.
Welcome to Mangaroos. Whatever you heard about us in Urban Dictionary, that's fake news. Should I even say that?
Maybe don't draw attention to that.
Okay.
Urban Dictionary, we're coming for you.
Okay, never mind. I'm going to do that over
Okay,
again.
take 2.